Welcome. I'm Faye Waterman, and this is Talking All Things Business. And my guest on the show is Kelly Berger. And Kelly Berger is the Director of Business Simplicity, Bookkeeper Support, and she likes to educate, create, empower, and have fun. So welcome, Kelly, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Faye. It's great to be here.
Fabulous. Now, today, Kelly, we're going to be talking about do you feel that people need to understand about bookkeeping when you go into their business and they ask you for help? What sort of issues do you actually find that you need to talk about and fix before you can start doing anything?
Well, the biggest thing that I've noticed is that people don't understand how their software operates, how it works, what to allocate their transactions to, or how to allocate them. So it's a lot around software education and just making sure that they're allocating it correctly, because some things, when it comes to GST, some things are GST free, which means they don't attract any GST, and some things are not are GST applicable. So therefore they need to understand, how to allocate that correctly within their software and how to allocate it correctly to the expenses or the loans, which are liabilities, or understanding when they bring in a new asset, what happens in the software and what you need to do. And these are a lot of things that business owners, they're not taught. There's a lot of because of the way that accounting is set up with double entry bookkeeping, a lot of business owners are not taught that and don't understand, if you have one entry, it needs to you need to have an opposite entry into another account. So a lot of people don't understand how the software works and how they need to use it.
Well, I was going to say, you said double entry and then you kind of explained it, but can we go into that just a little bit more so that people understand what a double entry means?
Okay, so when you've got your bank feeds coming through into the system, so you've got your transactions directly from your bank into your accounting software, you allocate it from the bank to your expense. So that's your double entry. You've got one entry going into your bank account, you've got one entry going into your expense. Right? But when you're dealing with things like loans, you need to ensure that when you set it up, it's set up as an asset, but the loan part needs to come into a liability. So again, it's got to have that double entry, which a lot of people don't understand, and this is why we go to school for so long.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because you've just said something there that just, I don't deal with that sort of thing. I leave it to the experts. And it's interesting to understand that when you're setting up a business and you're looking at a system or a program that you need to use, which is specific to your business and suitable. So how do you choose a program or whatever it is to your business, which is suitable for your business? How do you do that? What's the process?
Well, the process is understanding what your business needs now as well as what it needs in the future. So if you don't need inventory now, but you will need it for the future to, track the ins and outs of your stock, then you need to take into account that you need a system that can cover that inventory. And there's only a couple out there that can do that. So, looking at whether you need it to be completely online or whether you want it to be offline as an option, how many staff you have, because some of the systems cannot handle, thousands of staff, or it costs you so much extra when another system could have unlimited staff and be all inclusive of that package for the price. So it's understanding what your business is doing now, but also how you want to grow it in the future and what systems you will need to utilize in the future. And while you may go for a $5 package now, it may not serve you for very long, and then you'll have to move everything over to a bigger package. So it's time consuming and it can get quite complex.
So the suggestion is when someone's starting up a business and they're looking for an accounting package to cover what the basis of what they need now, which might be quite small, they need to come to someone like you and have a conversation and say, this is what I'm doing now, but this is what the predictions are in the future. So then that you can actually advise them into what package that they can actually use, which is suitable for them, which will be less costly in the long run than what it is if you have to get one now and then transfer all the data and information over to the new one later on down the track. And it's time consuming.
It is, it's time consuming, and then you have to learn a new system, and then you have to, and then you have to keep going back to the old system to, get information if you haven't pulled all that into the new system. And some systems you can only get transfer of maybe 12 months worth of data. So, if you're wanting to go back 5 years, it's a lot of manual entry and a lot of reports and printing off and keeping that, available for you in PDF form or in physical form. So there's all sorts of different reasons to try and stick with the same software that does you for now and in the future. And it's a lot easier on your accountants and your bookkeepers as well. And I can tell you I've changed a person from an original invoice only. They needed a better package, but they've now outgrown that package. So they've come to me after they've changed over to the new package, and now we need to change them again because it's just not doing for their output and what they need.
And this is the whole thing. That's why you're there. Before they do anything, they need to come to you first, sit down, have a conversation and talk about where they are now, where they're predicting themselves to go, what sort of things are happening and why they're happening. And then you can suggest to them, okay, this is the kind of package you need. This is what it will cost now, but this is what it won't cost you in the future. Because when you have to change these over and do all that sort of thing for people, then it's time consuming for you, it's costly for them, and you could save all that in one conversation, couldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. In one conversation, we can figure out what's going to work for them. And some people want like a CRM inbuilt, or they want to be able to quote on site. So they may need an extra add-on that doesn't do that in the accounting software that they want to work with, or that there is their preference. So we may have to look at alternatives on that side as well. But there's so many choices now. There's FreshBooks, Wave, there's MyOb, AccountRight, Essentials. You've got Xero, you've got QuickBooks Online, you've got Reckon Hosted, you've got Reckon One. There are so many out there. It's just understanding what is going to work for you and your business and how you currently run it.
Yeah, and that's an essential part of your business, isn't it? Actually running the back end of it and making sure it flows so that you can then get on with the real work within the business and not have to worry about, this didn't happen, that didn't happen, so this didn't happen. And it's just that ripple effect that flows on, and then they get themselves into all sorts of strife and stress and everything else. And then they just come to you and say, I can't do this.
Yeah, I've had a lot of people come to me and go, oh my God, I just can't. I've got a few at the moment who haven't done 12 months worth of BASs because it's just overloading for them. It is not their forte. They're not a numbers person. They're a creative person. I'm brilliant at this, but paperwork I'm not so brilliant at. And that's why we come in and we make that a lot easier for you to go, hey, I've got all these skills and background that I can help you on that side of your business to make sure that one, you're ATO compliant, which is becoming more and more difficult these days.
Yes.
With single touch payroll, your superannuation that's due the 21st of the month after, or depending on your quarters, and then you've got your BASs that are due, your PAYG if you do it monthly is due, your TPAR reports, which are your reports to let the ATO know that what your contractors were paid. There's just so much that you as a business owner, you just don't see, you don't understand, and you're getting all these letters from the ATO and you're like, oh my God. And we can help you with that because we keep you on track. We remind you when things are due. We send you out checklists and things so that you can focus on what you do best rather than worrying about all this compliance stuff.
Yeah, and that makes so much sense, really, when people start up businesses, they think it's going to be fun and all joy and everything like that, but they don't actually see behind the scenes what really needs to be set up from the beginning, particularly depending on the business that they're actually doing. If it's a one-man band, it's totally separate to employing people or contracting people. So you have all these different areas that you need to consider. Then you have to think, well, okay, where's the income coming from? Then where's it going? And am I going to get any of that? And, or is it all going to go somewhere else and I'm just working for free? Those sorts of things. So you have to sit down and really, really consider, am I going into business for the right reasons?
Absolutely. And understanding where your money is coming in and where it's going out is an essential part of what you do. And if you've got no money coming in and it's all going out, then you've got a serious problem and you need to deal with it. And you can't bury your head in the sand and go, oh, it'll be fine, I'm invoicing my clients. But if they're not paying, well, then, there's another problem. So it's, I work with clients on a week-to-week basis on their cash flow so that they understand, okay, well, I've got this money coming in. This is what I need to pay. Can I pay it or do I need to ring that supplier and say, hey, I'm going to be a week late? Yep. So those are, again, it's compliance within your business to make sure that financially you're making money and you are able to pay all those debtors and the ATO and the staff and all those expenses. But it's also understanding, what's in it for you. Can you go and have that lavish holiday that you've been, busting your butt for the last 12 months? Is it feasible? Is it possible? You don't know that unless you sit down and look at the numbers and say, oh, okay, yes, I can take out a wage this month because I've earned it.
Yes. And what they say about when you're in business, you must pay yourself first. And it doesn't mean that you pay yourself big numbers or big dollars, but you must pay yourself first. It could be, I don't know, it could be $10, but you pay yourself first and then you go and pay everybody else. What's the mindset behind that? And there is a mindset behind it, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. And you have to... It's putting yourself into the business owner mindset. You are no longer an employee. You no longer get that regular paycheck. You don't get them to pay your PAYG or your superannuation or all of your expenses. It doesn't work like that for you anymore. So as a small business owner, you need to put those things away. You need to make sure that you've got enough money to pay your suppliers and everybody. You need to make sure that you've got a plan all set out and going, right, that's how I'm going to do this. This is how I'm going to do this. And when I can expand, I'm going to do this.
Yeah. And how important is it for businesses to have a business plan, a prediction for at least 5 years? Because they say that you start a business and within the first two years and less than 5, businesses that start up usually stop.
Crumble. Yep, absolutely. And they usually crumble because they haven't caught up with the compliance and they usually get in debt with the ATO. I've had a lot of clients who have gone into the hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt with the ATO, and that's just not, and that's trying to crawl out of a hole now because they haven't been compliant from the very start. They didn't plan ahead. They didn't plan for the expansion. It just kind of happened, rapid expansion. Sometimes it does just happen organically, but you have to plan for these things, and look at it each month. I believe you should have a general idea of where you want to go within the next 2 to 5 years, but you've got to have a plan that goes to almost month to month for the first couple of years. So where you're going, what you're doing. Oh, I can afford to expand here, or no, I need to pull back the reins because I can't do what I plan to do. It needs to be a fluid plan where they can change it as they go. So it's a work in progress. It's not something set in stone. I don't believe any business plan can be set in stone for the next 5 years. Technology is changing. industry's changing, Fair Work's changing, ATO's changing. You cannot make a plan for 5 years. You can have an idea of where you want to be, but making a plan and sticking to it, it just doesn't work.
Yeah, a business plan is something that you have, but it's something that is a work in progress. So you can tweak it and change it at any time. You know, you might have those predictions, and you do need to know that. But, you know, it's something that is a work in progress. And if you need to change it, you change it, your predictions and everything like that. And that's what we have to understand as business owners, don't we?
Yep, you have to understand that there has to be some flexibility in the plan, and that you can't just set it in stone and off you go, because it won't necessarily work out quite like that. You may need to tweak it along the way. And while I'd love to sit there and go, yep, this is a foolproof plan, this is the plan, this is the way we're going to go, you know what, life happens.
It does, and it changes. And there, you know, you can be prepared for things, and you have that flexibility to change things along the way, and you can predict things, but there is always something that's going to be thrown in the works for you unexpectedly. How do you deal with it? And also in business, you have to have the right people behind you, behind the scenes, such as yourself, Kelly, to be able to refer to when you're thinking about something, or you're wanting to change something, or you're not sure about something, or someone's asked you a question, or you know, you've got an issue but you don't know where to go. So you're that go-to expert to ask and say, what do I do here? How do I deal with this? Particularly in your bookkeeping and your finances, it's a really important part of your business to have flow well.
Absolutely, it's the cornerstone. You know, you need to understand it to keep your business moving forward. And while a lot of people that I work with hate numbers and they don't understand what they're telling them, and they turn around and go, hey, what's this saying? You know, because my profit and loss is saying that I've got a heap of money in the bank, but there's no money in the bank. And I'm like, well, that's because it doesn't account for your loans, or, you know, money you've taken out of the business. You know, it doesn't account for that. So you can't just look at your profit and loss and go, hey, I should have heaps of money in there, because it doesn't work like that. So understanding your reporting and, you know, speaking to someone like me, even if it's just at the very beginning, to get an understanding of how things work and to train you to do it yourself, it is absolutely important. You know, you can do it yourself by all means. We're happy to train you, but make sure that you get it right so that you know where you're at and what's going on in your business.
Fabulous. Now, I want you to give 3 tips for someone who is thinking about going into business, for them to really think about it. It's a serious issue, and they need to not have it as an issue as they progress through and build on their business. What are 3 tips that you would suggest for them?
One is have a budget and stick to it. Make sure that you've got enough money to cover that budget if you haven't got any income coming in. The second thing is know your cash flow, know what is coming in, what isn't coming in, and know what you need to pay out, and make sure that any debts that you've got, you chase them, and you chase them until they're paid. Don't let it go 6, 12, 8, months down the track. It doesn't serve you, and it doesn't serve your business. Don't be, you know, you can be kind, but you've got to be firm, because it's your business, your livelihood, your money. You've worked hard for it. You earn it. You deserve it. So, you know, don't be afraid to put your foot down and say, no, look, I've let this go on for too long already. Foot's down. We're going to the next step, you know, debt collection, etc. So, the top 3 are have a budget, know your cash flow, and, you know, don't be trodden on, and keep firm.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, Kelly, for all that important information. And it really is important information for people to understand and have, so that they can know that they get up every day and things are where they need to be, and they can rely on you to ask a question at any time and support them through their journey of their business, because you're behind the scenes and you're there constantly, really. Even though you're not there, you're constantly there because you are their support. And the bookkeepers that you have on your team are also the support for businesses. So it's really important. Yeah.
It is. And, so it's any bookkeeper will be able to support you, but you've got to find the one that works with you on your business, as well as just the numbers, because there are so many bookkeepers out there that can help you on both fronts. So don't be afraid to ask your bookkeeper if they do a little business management as well.
Beautiful. Thank you, Kelly. And until next time, I'm Faye Waterman, your host of Talking All Things Business. Kelly will be back with another session sometime soon. So bye for now. Welcome. I'm Faye Waterman and this is Talking All Things Business. And my guest today is Kelly Berger. And now Kelly is the Director of Business Simplicity and she is also the Director of Bookkeepers Support. And what she loves to do is to educate, empower and create and support those people out there who need the services of a bookkeeper. And there's another thing that she likes to do is have fun. Welcome, Kelly, and thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me, Faye. It's great to be here.
Now, Kelly, we are going to talk about the importance of education. And you are one who thinks that you have bookkeepers that you support and you educate and train all over Australia. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. So I support about 5,000 plus bookkeepers across Australia through a support group on Facebook where they are able to utilise, questions and answers and things like that on the site. But the other thing I do is I run the bookkeeper support business as well, in which I have educational tools on the website, but I also run workshops and retreats and things for bookkeepers to upskill and learn how to start their own bookkeeping business.
Okay, so if there was someone out there that was interested in, they're doing a little bit of bookkeeping, but they want to up their skills and they want to do some more work. So they would connect with you, they would come to the workshops. What is the purpose of the workshop for them? Talk to me about that. What sort of things do they need to know? What sort of things do they have to learn to be a bookkeeper in the first instance? And then, it's that upskilling or it's just reinforcing, coming back to a workshop that is educational for a bookkeeper because things are continually changing all the time. So you need to be on top of that and then you will educate and train those bookkeepers so that they're on top of it as well. So that's one of the important things that you do, isn't it?
Yes, it is. So I run a couple of different workshops. One of them is the Kickstart business workshop, and that's designed for a bookkeeper that's got their Cert 4 and they're on their way to becoming a registered BAS agent and then wanting to start their own business and their own bookkeeping business. And in our industry, there's a lot of compliance things that we need to stay on top of and signing letters of engagement to ensure that the client is aware of our rules and regulations and also what we provide them. Also understanding what their dollar value is for their business and how they promote themselves. They also need assistance on marketing and advertising, and they're not quite sure where to go and what to do. So we help, teach them how to network effectively and utilize things like Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and those kind of marketing areas to launch their business and creating a personal brand and how they approach clients and what information they need when they first connect with the client and what they, where they go from there and how they operate their own business and processes and procedures. So that's the Kickstart one. That's to get them off the ground and moving forward and, becoming their own boss, which is what a lot of them want to do.
Absolutely, because it gives them that flexibility. You know, if you've got children and you need to be at home and dropping kids off and picking them up and doing all that sort of stuff. And I think most people start their own business for those reasons, but it gives them the flexibility so that they can, you know, have a little bit of time out. But it's also really important that they upskill themselves and have the qualifications to show to the people that they're working with. So you then are a support and a go-to person that if someone's in doubt about someone's credibility or qualifications, they can ask you and you can recommend. So you're there and you get to know these people when they're in the workshops anyway. And so you can recommend people to businesses and clients and things like that.
Absolutely, and I do that on a regular basis. You know, if I've got someone who's contacting me from Perth and they're after a bookkeeper, I'll put it out to our bookkeepers to, you know, put their names up and let the client know, and I'll give them specific parameters. You know, if they need a BAS agent or not. Being a registered BAS agent is really important because you can't just pick this up and do it from home anymore. You need to be a registered BAS agent, which means you need to have had at least 1,000 hours of work experience already. Yeah, absolutely. You need to have your own insurances. You need to have registration with the Tax Practitioners Board. So there's a lot of services that you cannot
just go into
vision. You cannot just do. So it's no longer, you know, anybody can pick it up. They need to have their Cert 4, they need to be qualified, and they need to have that experience, and they need to be registered. So it's come a long way in our regulations and our restrictions as well. So when I do the Kickstart retreat, I work through those regulations and make sure that anybody that's doing my retreat understands that they need supervision, or they need to, you know, how far are they off getting their BAS hours to get registered. Let's push for that. So I'm the driving force behind them to get registered and be, you know, accountable for you know, compliance in our industry, which is really, really important.
It is important, and you know, you being that go-to person, you have to be on top of everything so that then you can educate them. So, you know, it's a timing thing. And when these people come to these workshops and they say, I want to become a BAS agent, but they don't realise how much time that they have to spend in training before they can actually go out there and say, I'm a BAS agent, is massive. 1,000 hours is a long time for someone to do training before they can actually get an income doing that sort of thing. So in the interim, you're educating them to be a bookkeeper and do the basics, can I say, the basics of bookkeeping until such time, and they get the experience of doing the BAS until such time that they are qualified in that area. So that is your beginning workshop or retreat. How many hours or how many days do you do to do that workshop?
So that's a one-day workshop at the moment, and it's an intensive. So, you know, we go through everything for their setup, making sure that they're either, if they're supervised by a BAS agent or a tax accountant, then they are able to work with entities that are registered for GST, that do have payroll, but they have to be supervised. So we make sure that they're covered on that front, and you know, if or with recommendations within the industry, if we can get them a supervisor if they haven't already got one, or you know, most of them have contact with their own accountants. They've been doing their own books and whatnot, so they can get you know, support from them. So it's working with them to making sure that they're, you know, supervised, making sure that they're doing the right thing and they're moving forward in their business. And they can still work, but they have to work with entities that are not registered for GST, right, or that don't have payroll involved. So, you know, that's the really small ones. Unfortunately, those hours also don't count towards being a BAS agent either, because it's nothing to do with BAS services.
So it's a separate thing altogether. So these workshops are really important for anyone who is thinking about being a bookkeeper or, you know, running their own business. If they're working for someone, that's fine, because they've got that person up there who,
that's right,
who can oversee and do all that sort of stuff. But if they want to go out on their own, they need to come and do your workshops, which you're going to be running later in the year, where, you know, this time of the year running workshops is not a good thing because of the end of financial year stuff that needs to be done, and all accountants and bookkeepers and everybody are so busy doing what they have to do to get everybody's work done. And then a couple of months later, you start running workshops. So over the period of say September through to what time? What month?
September through to December is when we'll be running the workshops in Brisbane, Sydney and Melbourne, and potentially Perth and Adelaide, I hope.
Right. Okay. And so they're one-day workshops. What about the intensive workshop? What's the more advanced workshop that you run?
So the experience workshop is about upskilling. So they learn, you know, how to do budgets and cash flows and processes and procedures for clients, how to deal with rescue work, you know, when they're finding a file that's an absolute mess. Where do they start? What do they do? They're learning how to improve the workflow processes within their own business. And also just understanding, you know, where they're currently at, where they want to go in their business, creating their exit strategy. You know, what's the plan when, you know, they don't want to work anymore? A lot of people don't think about that. They also don't think about what happens to their clients if something happens to them, because a lot of us are sole traders or one-man bands. So what happens, you know, we've had this instance where we've had bookkeepers who have passed away and the clients weren't notified and they've got no idea what's happened. You know, so it's about creating that plan. So, okay, if anything happens to me, you need to call this bookkeeper. They need to sort out my clients, and then, you know, either keep the business running for the family, or do they shut up shop and pass all these clients on to somebody? But they need to notify the client somehow. So, you know, the exit strategy, the crisis plans, all those kind of things really need to be set in stone. It's like the crisis plan's like your will for your business. Yeah. So, you know, creating that and having that available, and, you know, putting it with your will so your family know what's what.
Absolutely. And you know what, you don't think about that, do you? You know, that exit plan. I suppose some people do. They build a business and they have an exit plan because they want to work in it for a certain amount of years, build it up and get it to a certain place, and then they want to move on to something else. But when you're a bookkeeper and people are relying on you and you want an exit plan, you have to have a plan so that you can, exactly what you said, is move them on to the next person, or, you know, if they want to continue on their business, who do they pass it on to? Are they capable of doing the work? So all this sort of thing is incorporated into your education programs, which is a really important part of, what do I say? I don't even know really what I want to say there. It's a really important part of their education and a plan, and that can be a part of their, you know, their business plan. That needs to be put in their business plan, but it does need to be set in concrete, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, because if you're planning on, you know, moving your clients onto another bookkeeper and you're planning on selling those clients, then you need to have the processes in place and the client manuals and everything in place for those clients to hand off to a new bookkeeper. You also have to plan how long you're going to stay within that business that you're passing them on to do that handover, so that client feels confident in the new person that you've chosen to take over the business. So there's so many complexities and so many ways of doing it. You can just turn around and say, oh, I'm shutting up shop, send out a notice to all your clients, you've got 3 months or 6 months to find a new bookkeeper because I'm shutting up shop. That's fine, but you need to have an idea of what you want to do, because if you want to sell it, then you need to put things in place, processes, procedures, manuals, etc., to pass on to the next person. It makes it and it gives you a better selling dollar value as well if you've got all that in place.
And you've got all these clients anyway, so you have something to sell. But it's all the procedures, it's all the systems that you need in place, and you educate them in that. And I would say the majority of people don't do that. So you're an you're an integral part of getting them up to speed, educating them and making sure that they're doing the right thing, not just by their clients, but by themselves and to themselves and their families. And their families. Very important.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my husband knows that, if anything happens to me, that my assistant Eva is to be contacted. She's got all access to everything. So she can contact all the clients. She can let them know what's going on. She can continue the business until such time as either I'm well or my husband, sells off the business, or she can keep running it and, the money goes to the family. So it's she could buy it, so there's just so many different ways of doing it. But having that plan in place, I'm leaving it up to them, but as to what they want to do, because it depends on the circumstances at the time. But ultimately they contact Eva, and Eva contacts all my clients to let them know what's happening and what direction they're going to take.
That is an integral part of everyone's business, not just bookkeepers. It is an integral part. It's like, you can be here one minute and gone the next, and what happens to your business, and then everything's thrown up in the air. If you don't have those plans in place, which, when you're running a business is really important. So going along to these workshops, learning all these skills, developing it, putting the procedures and systems in place so that if anything does happen, not that hopefully it doesn't, everything runs smoothly and all your clients or your customers, whatever you want to call them, are taken care of, and it's a smooth transition. Yep,
absolutely. You've got to have that smooth transition, or at least take the burden off, when necessary, because, it'd be a hard time as it is. And if you don't have a plan, well, then, what are your family to do? They're stressed about you already, so why put this added stress on them? Why not just give them a plan and going, this is the plan, here's all my information, who you need to call for electricity, rent, gas, who's my car loan with, who's my, all these things that they need to know, not just what happens to my clients.
Yeah, that is an incredible, we know it, but sometimes we don't do it. And then something happens, and then everyone's in a panic because what do I do here? What do I do there? So you can solve those problems as a bookkeeper. I mean, there are probably other people out there, but you are an integral part of someone's business, as I say, and that these education processes that you run for your bookkeepers is really a priority for them to understand, because I would say the majority of them go into business and don't even consider any of these things.
Oh, absolutely. It's the last thing on their mind. They're like, oh no, I'm just going to go into business, things are going to be great, it's awesome, and don't think about the end.
and going into business, nobody sees behind the scenes. They think, everyone or people that are successful, it's an overnight success, but there's all these processes and continual work that goes on behind the scenes in a business that nobody sees or knows about or understands if they've never run a business.
That's right.
Yeah. Give me, or give the listeners, the bookkeepers actually, 3 reasons why it's important for them to attend these workshops. What would they be?
The number one reason would be to give yourself further knowledge as to what is required within our industry, and make sure that you're compliant with everything that you need to run a business. The second is to make your life a bit easier, to have those plans set up and put in place while you're at the workshop, so you can literally walk out of there and go, hey, I've got a plan, I've got everything set, I just have to go and give it to my family. And 3 is probably just to communicate and work with other bookkeepers in the industry. And if you've got any problems, it's a great place to create connections with other bookkeepers and like a little support network for yourselves. So if you've got any questions or are struggling, you not only have me, but you also have, a collective of people who have done the same kind of training and can help each other out. So that's probably my top three.
And you know what, it's really important. I mean, we're not in competition when we're in business. We're in business to serve people. There are enough people out there, and not everyone is your client. So they may like you, they may not like you, and they'll do something else. Or if you can't work with a client, then you can refer them on to someone that will do the right thing by them. And this is what's important in business. And it doesn't matter what business that you're in, but educating yourself and upskilling yourself, and particularly bookkeepers who keep that what do you say, that
fire. Fire in their belly to keep learning.
Keep the cogs going in the business too, because if you haven't got that system going, you've got nothing.
Exactly.
All this other stuff, but if you don't have that going, you have nothing. So thank you, Kelly. I think that bookkeepers and even non-bookkeepers need to understand this. So thank you for your input, your wisdom and your expertise in this area. It is very important for people to understand this in any business. So thank you for your time. Once again, I am Faye Waterman. This is a conversation. This is not a conversation with Faye. This is talking all things business, and it is bye for now, and thank you, Kelly.
Thank you.